Hello, Orion Ghia here. This particular episode of AARGH My Optics is well long, so we've cut it into more digestible chunks. You can find the previous part right behind this in our uploads, unless you've already listened to it. In that case, welcome back. Let's get back into it, shall we? My optics! You were saying you thought it was a vast improvement on the previous two series. I do not think it is.
I think it is in the sense of that I was expecting amazingly a lot worse. And the only thing that I would take from the two interactions, like you were saying, is the Beast Wars Megatron fanboy. I thought that was so out of character. Almost everyone else is kind of a pale comparison to their original series. But that Megatron was so different. And it wasn't just because he was
just a lackey.
It's not even just because of that. It's not that he did not have anything else than that. Like it was...
No.
I could believe that that Beast Wars Megatron loves or idolizes G1 Megatron, but not to the extent of his own well-being and his own, vision of conquesting or doing whatever.
Beast Wars Megatron wasn't stupid.
He wasn't stupid, yes. Yeah.
Megafan is stupid. And I think that's the problem. I didn't like it at all. I thought he was really, really bad. And his voice was bad.
Yes.
And everything about him was just not good. Like, I didn't enjoy one bit of him being on screen at any point. I would go... They basically turned him into Scorponok. As in Beast Wars Scorponok. He just does what he's told.
I like how Scorponok was the cog of this.
Yeah, he was the troop builder.
All of a sudden, there's like loads of them.
Yeah.
Because it was a bit strange that there was only 3 Predacons and that they were having so much trouble with just 3 of them. Megatron, Black Arachnia, and Dinobot, and then loads of Scorponoks appears out of nowhere. So I guess that's who they needed to stop.
Yes, I assume they just got an army of Scorponoks. Well, this is something that's a problem with all of War for Cybertron. It has no sense of humour. It has no levity. It's never funny. Mm-hmm. They could have totally played up how irritating it was to Megatron that there's this idiot purple dinosaur that's calling himself Megatron. He mentions it a couple of times, but it's never well done or funny. It's just kind of like, oh, this is a bit annoying.
Just change your name.
That's about it.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, and it could have made a big deal out of that, but they didn't. But then I wouldn't expect them to, because it would be such a kind of jarring change in tone if they started being funny all of a sudden.
I mean, we spoke about it in our predictions in the last episode of Earthrise. We did talk about that. We spoke about hopefully the Beast Wars guys will inject some sort of comedy or humour for them being such light-hearted characters.
But no. No, I mean there were some attempts at it. Rat Trap once or twice tried to make a joke, and they were kind of okay, but they weren't.
Oh, one of the Autobots say? I think it's Sideswipe.
For those nitpickers out there, it's Hound actually. Not that it matters. Most of the Autobots are interchangeable. There's no discernible difference between Hound and Sideswipe, other than their colour and shape.
And it's like, they all shout maximize and transform and run off, and they're like, does that mean transform?
Yeah, exactly. There's one or two very, very weak attempts at comedy that maybe if I were a kid, maybe I might find them funny.
Oh, there was another one. Is it like they were climbing some sort of mountain and they were all running up in beast modes? And the Autobots were struggling.
They were struggling with the terrain. Yeah.
Like I've got arms and legs to walk up this.
Yeah.
I can only travel in vehicle mode. What is this weird torture?
Well, yeah. No, and that's fine. But it obviously, I think if you'd gone too far with the comedy, it wouldn't have worked anyway. So it's kind of I'm glad they tried to put a bit of it in there, but it fell flat because it just wasn't very funny.
I mean, to be fair, I think the last try to make a joke was that in Earthrise when they called Bumblebee the ugly one. Even Bugbite, the clone of him.
Well, that was the joke, wasn't it? Originally, Bugbite called him the ugly yellow one or something like that. But yeah,
it's like, great work, guys. That's it. Script done.
Yeah, well, Jesus. Well, you know what I think of the script. Well, I have got an example of a point where I found it sort of funny.
Mm-hmm.
When the show basically trolls itself, and the Maximals point out that the Allspark seems kind of pointless. AARGH doesn't even know what it is. And it's like, well, hang on, isn't this the reason your planet's destroyed? Would you not know what the Allspark was? But they also, RC goes, oh, it's the source of all life. We can't exist without it. And Rat Trap goes, well, we do.
Mm-hmm. It's true, yes.
But they're kind of pointing at how they failed to show us how important the Allspark is to Cybertronian life. They've not managed to kind of make us believe it's that
that important that they can all.
The quest to get the Allspark is really that important, which is a bit odd of them to do. Just go, oh yeah, it's not that important. We could probably just leave it here, go back.
I found it was strange that a lot of the Kingdom Beast Wars characters didn't resemble their toys as much as the Siege guys do, even though they pretty much all transform. And I don't necessarily mean like in the way they transform and where, obviously for the Beast modes, you wouldn't see the robot modes in them, but their actual robot modes designs are very off from what their figures are compared to how one-to-one the Siege guys are.
That's because they didn't do it the same. They didn't use Hasbro's CAD files for this season.
Wow.
Apparently, most of the models in Siege they used direct CAD models. Well, a lot of them anyway. So they looked almost bang on to the toys, almost to a fault. But that's because that show Siege was made much later in the development of the toy line, if you know what I mean. Like the Siege toy line had already been in development for quite some time. Whereas Earthrise and Kingdom were being animated as Earthrise and Kingdom toy lines were being designed. So they didn't have the CAD files for a lot of the stuff. So they had to just go off of other things. So I know that they used, for the Beast Wars characters, they just roughly based them on show appearances and existing Masterpiece figures and things like that.
Oh.
And the non-toy characters, a lot of them are based on kind of concept art created for the show rather than the actual toys. But yeah, and apparently, obviously, things like Galvatron and Unicron obviously had the toy, but Galvatron was based just kind of on his G1 appearance. Just went, this is what G1 Galvatron looks like. Done. The toy hadn't even been designed at the point which is why he looks nothing. He looks nothing like that. Well, not nothing like, but he doesn't look a lot like the Kingdom toy.
No, it's very, very different. But I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just noticeable. It's like how you noticed how Bumblebee and RC were very just different to everyone else.
I thought it was odd that Primal uses his swords, but he never uses his wrist cannons. He never uses his shoulder cannons. In fact, his shoulder cannons seem to be his jetpack. So at one point, he's got a gun in his hand. And I'm like, why has he got a gun in your hand when you've got those things in your wrists? Like, why wouldn't you use them? And I don't know why Airazor needs to be Iron Man, but she does.
What? Oh, right.
Surely, if you're searching for people, you'd be better off flying around in bird mode than flying around like Iron Man with the jets in your hands and your feet. Is it just because the animators wanted to animate Iron Man or something?
I did notice that, and that was very odd. Thinking about it, did the Seekers just float? They always just transform to fly. I never see them fly in robot mode.
No, she's the only one. Oh no, Primal flies in robot mode as well, obviously.
No, but I mean the Decepticons. I don't think I've ever seen them levitate.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's bits where people weirdly levitate, like Nemesis does at one point.
Oh yeah, that was odd.
My optics!
I liked, and it kind of pulls back to our previous podcast about transformation.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that the Beast Wars guys fought a lot in beast mode, even to the point where it was a stupid idea for you to charge or jump into battle in your beast mode, but at least they did transform and fought a lot in. And I kind of like that because the other guys are hardly transforming at all.
Yeah.
So
No, you're right. They use their beast modes quite a lot, and not just for battle, for transportation and so on. Although you did actually see a few of the G1 in inverted commas guys in their alt modes at points as well, but not a lot.
No.
Prime definitely used his a couple of times. I'm fairly sure there was a bit where Cheetor was running ahead and the cars were following him.
Yeah, but I mean more in terms of fighting, because whenever they transform, most of the time it's just for travel.
Well, why would you transform to fight anyway?
Well,
you would transform into your robot mode to fight. This is why the Dinobots have terrible alt modes.
Well, the Dinobots breathe fire, or they can do a lot of other things.
Why do they breathe fire? Like
create earthquakes and whatnot.
When did dinosaurs breathe fire? Never.
I think that the car guys could do as much damage ramming someone, especially Prime, as a truck.
What, than shooting someone with a missile? I would say not.
I mean, well, do they do that? Because even the guys with missile launchers on their shoulder, they very rarely.
No, they use them quite a few times. I remember them using them a few times.
Not for battle, for distractions or something, but not shooting someone in the face.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I know what you mean. I suppose it's good that they did transform. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not good that they transformed. I just don't think that. I don't think that turning into. We've had this discussion when we did the alt modes thing. I don't think alt modes are for battle.
No. I don't think they all are, but I think it's nice that they did do that in this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like you said, there is no real reason why they're beasts, and not like the whole energon levels or whatever is not mentioned, so it can't be that.
Yeah.
It's not a shielding thing. So
well, they don't say anything. Yeah, they don't exactly. They don't explain why they turn into beasts, which is why they feel a bit weird. I suppose it's just they turned up there and went, well, this place is full of animals, so let's be animals.
Oh, they must have.
Like, that's as much as they thought about it. It's like, but these animals aren't going to do anything. They're not going to go, oh my god, there's a massive robot. And they don't. So why did they even take on animal alt modes?
I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
Because they don't have it in the flashback.
I suppose the only reason that you could possibly attribute to it, which is kind of mentioned, is that maybe it makes it easier for them to traverse the landscape.
Probably, yeah.
But that's it. But I mean, that works for some of them. I don't know if a T-Rex is better at climbing a cliff face. Probably not.
He's got long legs.
Okay, yeah, and tiny arms. Yeah, yeah, they never even question it. Like, it's just like, they're in the Ark, some animals attack them, they go, oh my god, animals are attacking us. Then the animals turn into robots and they go, oh, you're robots. And that's it.
Like us.
Yeah, just like us. Okay, well, right. We're not even gonna question why you turn into organic animals. That's just fine.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, it's not a big deal. But it is funny that they just kind of gloss over it. It's not important. It doesn't matter that I've got a dinosaur head for a hand. It doesn't matter.
I guess you have to blame for that is Prime, because I am sure in Optimus Primal's explanation of what the hell's going on and what the future was going to be, he was going to tell them that. He was going to be like, okay.
Oh, I see. Prime just said, shut up.
Shut up.
Stop explaining things to me. I'm too busy. I've got to go outside and have a bit of a long think. Yeah, maybe. You might be right.
Just from your own knowledge of Cybertron lore, Does it have an atmosphere?
Not that. Well, it's better. I suppose it must do.
But
Why?
not like an atmosphere for it to have clouds. I mean, it does have acid rain, I suppose, doesn't it?
I think it does. Does it matter whether it does or not?
No. I just thought it was because I just thought it was very strange that in Siege there was like the whole show was in darkness until the end, until they went through the arc.
I see what you
and
mean.
It was daylight, and then at the end of the show as well, it was like that. So I was like, is that a old Spark thing? Is that a...
Well, I mean, that's less to do with atmosphere. That's more to do with does it revolve around the sun? I don't think the guys making the show thought about that very much. They just thought it's war, it's dark, it's gritty, everything's crap. It's going to be nighttime all the time, and then when the Allspark comes back, it'll be daytime because it'll be bright and sunny and everything's better.
I mean, because from our previous episode we were talking about headmasters and stuff, and in the last episode of the American show, they save everything and the Cybertron turns gold.
Yes,
but it's still nighttime. So I was under the assumption that
I see
the same type of logic.
I don't know. I mean, no, I don't know. I don't know if Cybertron has an atmosphere, but obviously this is a different continuity, but I'm fairly sure... What am I? I was going to say, do we ever see Spike or Daniel wandering around the surface of Cybertron without a helmet on?
No, because they're good.
Are they always...
Yes!
We do.
Yes, you do.
Then,
Sorry.
Then
yes,
it must have an atmosphere. It must contain oxygen.
You do, yeah. I guess so.
Because they can breathe up there. Again, I don't think the guys making the TV show ever thought about it, but because we've seen it, it must be true. My optics! You wanted to talk about toy line versus show.
Yeah, we could talk about that. I mean, it's... I was meant to make a note of that. I didn't go back and do it. I was meant to see how many characters actually transform on screen versus just clones of people just walking around not doing anything. Like the character model usage, I find weird.
Yeah,
because guess like the Ironhide clones and stuff that I didn't see a point of. But even if when Scorponok had done it as well, it was just odd that that's the way they decided to fill the scenery and stuff. Like, I feel like it would make more sense to make a generic robot without an alt mode, like a Bumblebee or something, with different heads on. Yeah. Like, I understand there's a budget, but I mean, making several different heads, someone with a visor, someone not with a visor, all in the background, would have been so much better.
Maybe.
Than this constant reuse. Oh, characters are not going to transform, so why give them a transforming body type? Like a Viacon or the drones in Beast Machines type of feel. That's like, why is it necessary to
have lots of people in the background, or
a lot of people of the main show cast characters? It's not so much that it's... I would find it more, even as a person who knows about Transformers, it was a shock when Moonracer died in Siege, because I thought that was Chromia. Like,
well, they look identical. They're almost the same color.
Oh yeah, like, why?
And then Chromia pretty much dies in Earthrise anyway, so
yeah,
it's fine. But I know what you mean, but I don't know. I suppose I don't have much of an issue with that. I get that they want to make the world look a bit bigger and make the ranks of the Autobots and Decepticons look a bit, fuller, like, pad them out. So reusing cogs and reusing reflectors and even reusing Ironhides and all that kind of stuff, I didn't really have a problem with it. Same, Scorponok, Beast Wars Scorponok. But it is interesting that that there's not an awful lot of transforming in the show, and a lot of it is done off screen. The AARGH transformed off screen.
Yes.
You'd think that was meant to be like a big thing.
I mean, even we spoke about even Scorponok in Earthrise transforms off screen.
Yeah.
You don't see him.
Virtually no one transforms on screen. Like, even when Megatron turns into his tank, the camera kind of spins away from him, and then it comes back to him, and his cannon's just kind of slotting in place. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see the whole thing.
Like, you don't see the full thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't care, but I understand that people do care, and people who like Transformers like to see them transform. And it is weird that not weird, but it is a bit of a swizz that so little transformation appears in the show. Because that is basically the gimmick.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it isn't. It's not really the... It is, isn't it? It's more the selling point of Transformers, really, is that they transform.
And again, if you're watching the TV show as a kid now... I mean, I know when I was watching G1 as a kid, what was amazing to me was that they transformed.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
But and you saw them do it all the time. You know, they would constantly show them doing it. Autobots transform and roll out, and you'd see them do it. You know, you don't see this at all.
I have more of a biased opinion on that because I grew up on the Unicron trilogy, where it was like maybe a third of the show was dedicated to those massive transformation sequences.
Well, yeah, they had those
the music would kick in,
those stock sequences that they just play over and over and over, and it would be the same every time.
And I would love it. It was great. It was like, yeah!
Well, no, again, it's the same thing, though. They're selling you on the gimmick of the toy. Earthrise is not doing that. Earthrise is sitting in a weird little kind of area. Not Earthrise, sorry. War for Cybertron. It's sitting in a weird area of, this is meant to be a serious TV show for adults, in inverted commas, but it's about toys that you can buy in The Entertainer or Smith's, or used to be able to buy in Toys R Us. It's so weird. I mean, regular adults who aren't interested in toys won't watch this. Even maybe if they liked Transformers when they were kids, maybe they might. And I think kids will maybe not get the gimmick, because the fact that they transform seems completely beside the point of what's happening in the show. It's not really... It's completely unimportant. They could not transform and the show would be exactly the same.
It's true.
My optics!
Anything else?
Do you think that if the 86 movie guys were meant to be in the slot of the Kingdom guys instead? Because you said you had some sort of info on that. What's that about then?
Right, yes. So this is these are some rumours that I've been reading. So the rumour is that Beast Wars wasn't originally going to be part of Kingdom.
Alright.
And it was John Warden and his team pushed for Beast Wars to be in it because of the 25th anniversary coming up. For the uninitiated, John Warden was Hasbro's senior design manager on the Transformers franchise during the War for Cybertron trilogy, and therefore hugely influential on what figures appeared in the War for Cybertron line. And that originally, the time travel element in Kingdom may not have been called Kingdom as a result, because, you know... But anyway, the time travel element in the third part would involve a crossover with the 1986 movie characters. In a way, kind of copying Target 2006 from the Marvel UK comic book, with... Because you've got Galvatron coming back in time coming out of his own time and appearing in the Dead Universe in Earthrise. And it would follow that you might see Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime and Cup and RC. Well, RC, though, is there from the bloody beginning anyway. But you know what I mean? Weirdly. She just appears in Siege for no reason, and then she's just there. But anyway, you expecting or thinking that might happen. Apparently that was originally part of the plan, but then it was kind of pushed for the Beast Wars guys to be written in. So, and that's why Kingdom and Studio Series 86 is a bit of a mess, because
bit intertwined.
you've got people who really should be in Studio Series 86 appearing in Kingdom, like Rodimus Prime, like Cyclonus, like Galvatron. Now, okay, Galvatron is in the Kingdom show, but the others aren't. You know,
it's interesting because I wonder what that original,
well, it would have been quite different. Would have been quite different, but I honestly would have preferred it.
I don't know if I would.
I would rather they not piss all over Beast Wars and leave it alone.
But I kind of wouldn't want them to do that to the 86 movie either.
The 86 movie's already been pissed on millions of times. It doesn't matter. I mean, that they've reused those characters over and over again in many, 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 many iterations. Beast Wars have been largely left alone until now.
But that's what I mean. Like, I think I would. If anything good to come out of this is that the Beast Wars is back in the mainstream.
Yeah, if anything good to come out of this, they've ruined Beast Wars for everybody. Absolutely.
No, I mean that the characters have come back.
They've come back, and they're really bad.
I mean,
they've brought them back, and they've ruined them. And I'm so pleased.
Is it wrong that I think that's better than the 86 guys?
Why?
Because it would just be from Kingdom, right? So, I guess the only difference may be Galvatron in Earthrise doesn't show him the golden disc, and he just focuses on the Matrix.
Well, it'll probably be a bit different, but you wouldn't have the golden disc shenanigans going on.
No,
but
no time travel.
Well, there'll be time travel. Absolutely time travel.
Well, I guess who would be time traveling?
Galvatron, Hot Rod, all of those guys, because they're from the future of Cybertron. Instead of the Beast Wars guys being from the future of Cybertron, the 86 guys would be from the future of Cybertron.
Because that would also mean that Cybertron doesn't die, because you only learn about the symbiotic connection in Kingdom in the same way.
Well, why would Cybertron not die?
Unless it's because the 86 guys were on Earth.
Yes.
In modern Earth.
On Earth, and then you could actually have the guys from Siege be reformatted into their Earthrise bodies.
Yeah.
Because it would be probably a modern Earth or a futuristic Earth rather than a prehistoric Earth. So you would be able to have a lot more of the actual toys from the actual toy lines in the show.
It's interesting because today I got my Titan class AARGH.
Really?
And Scorponok. And just looking at the box, I noticed that on the box, Starscream is in his Earthrise toy alt mode on the box. Mm-hmm. In that artwork.
Yeah, but as we all know, the toy line and the art and the TV show are very much not in symbiosis. That's
a big departure because it's already so late in the game. Why would he have the Earth mode and not the?
Because Hasbro don't care.
I mean, yes, that is probably the main answer.
Yeah, they don't care. They're all about selling you the toys. The TV show is not selling anyone any toys.
Yeah, because the shows come so late after the toys have come out now,
and they're not very good characters.
Don't know. It's interesting. Is this literally like a variant timeline of what could have happened?
I honestly think that there was quite a bit of mucking about with the show. I think that it could have been a different show. I know that was it FJ DeSanto? He's the guy behind it. He wanted Kingdom to be longer than it was. Mm-hmm. He wanted the whole trilogy, you know, all three parts to have more episodes and they'd be able to do a lot more with it. But Netflix were very, very strict about how many episodes they could have.
I wonder why that is, because they did the same thing with He-Man, isn't it? It was meant to be like like 10 episodes, one and done, but they wanted it to be split apart into 2 5 parts.
Something to do with how Netflix feel that their viewers consume things, and I don't know.
Can't have it longer.
I don't work for
trial.
Netflix. I can't really tell you, but they were very, very strict about it. Apparently, so that's apparently they did want there to be more time, and that's why I keep mentioning how there are bits where it seems that it's been cut up, and there was maybe a scene that would have explained something, and then it's disappeared, and then they've not really gone back and gone, oh, that thing that guy says makes no sense now because we didn't have that scene before. Like, I noticed it rewatching the whole of War for Cybertron. I noticed it. There were quite a few bits. There was a bit where in Earthrise, when the Autobots are on that space station and they're fighting Scorponok, and Ironhide kind of radios Prime and says, the Decepticons have just docked, or something like that. And as far as I could tell, it's the first time Prime even knew the Decepticons were there. And he acts like it's not important. Like, he's like, oh, okay. And then Megatron turns up a minute later, and they're like, what's Megatron doing here? It's like, Ironhide just told you he's here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Like, I do think that during production, there were a lot of ideas that ended up on the cutting room floor. And it could have possibly been a better show if they had more of that stuff in there, or there hadn't been so much interference from either Hasbro or Netflix or whatever in order to fulfill whatever they needed. I know that Hasbro are obviously mandating which toys needed to appear, and obviously when Hasbro, if Hasbro made the decision quite late in the day to include Beast Wars, they then had to completely change the last section of the show.
It's interesting, to say the least, because I don't know necessarily if it would have been better, but I think it definitely at least explained a lot more if we had got the full length.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm not saying it. Yeah, I mean, for it to be better, they would have to write some better dialogue and get some better voice acting going on. To be honest.
Yes.
If it were longer and you still had that terrible dialogue, and it might actually be worse.
Will this ever end?
But maybe the story might have made more sense in certain places. So
My optics!
anyway, you mentioned our predictions,
Oh, yeah.
so I thought we could go through them because I wrote them down. So I went through the predictions we did on the podcast, and also what listeners won't know is that we both wrote down some predictions and thoughts on the trailer and emailed them to each other before the season started, so we could then go back and look at them. So I've already written those down as well. So one of the predictions you made, Dave, on the podcast was there'll be very few characters from the Kingdom line in Kingdom.
Well, I mean, that's kind of true.
I disagreed and said I reckon we'll get most of the main cast of Beast Wars, which I was correct about.
Yeah. I mean,
they're all there, aren't they? Pretty much.
I think
Everyone that's in the Kingdom toy line is in the show.
I guess that toy technically has not come out yet. So
What toy?
I was thinking of Waspinator.
Oh yeah, that's not come out yet.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a Tarantulas at some point, and I think there might be an Inferno, but those haven't come out yet. So but everything we've seen in Kingdom from Beast Wars, aside from the fossilizers, which we'll get onto in a minute, was in the show. And I said that probably not the Studio Series 86 stuff like Cyclonus, even though Cyclonus is actually in the Kingdom line. I didn't think we'd see them, and we didn't. But you did say you doubted the fossilizers turn up, and you were correct.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't turn up at all. In fact, I think you were talking about this last time. The whole gimmick or gimmicks of the War for Cybertron line was so very, very rarely used. They were used a couple of times in Siege, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think they really play up on the whole modulator, weaponizer type gimmick.
Yeah, Cog turned into some kind of shoulder-mounted cannons a couple of times in Siege, and then that's it. Never happened again. And then we never saw any fossilizers. We never saw any of the other ones from Earthrise. That was it.
Yeah, it was quite disappointing. It's kind of like having Armada without any minicons in it. It's like it's the whole point of the line.
Yeah.
This.
I mean, it is and isn't. I think the toy line isn't really about the gimmicks. The gimmicks are just kind of an extra thing, maybe more to attract the kids. The toy line is really more about providing faithful, updated versions of characters you know and love.
No.
It's not really about the modular armor and modular weapons and so on.
I think, as in the way the toys. So, like Siege, by a lot, and Earthrise by probably about 6 months or so, came out before their respective shows.
Mm-hmm.
And the way Hasbro talked about the toys and the toy line at the time made it as that this was going to be a big part of it. And like the integration between these weapons and this armor and stuff will be a big part of this.
Yeah, it's a big part of the toy line, but it's not a big part of the TV series.
Well, now we know it isn't, but if anything, there's so many situations where people are like, I have to surrender, or their guns get taken away, or they're about to die. And it's like, well, one of you can transform into a tank and attach to someone. There's multiple. There's loads of them. They all could attach to each other. It's.
Well, I mean, it's quite good that Megatron turned into his tank mode and shot at the AARGH at the end when the weapons went down.
Oh yeah.
It was good for them to actually use that.
Remember, he can do that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's good, I guess. But yeah, I agree. But I think the things like the fossilizers and the weaponizers and what are the other battle masters or whatever there called, those things,
even the
those things,
masters.
Yeah, all those things were there more from a toy perspective because they were ways you could make the toy line interact with each other, and not so much from a story perspective.
Oh no, wait! I tell a lie. Technically, Ravage and Laserbeak are battle masters.
Yeah, but they're just tapes.
Yeah, well, they fit.
I don't care what they call them. they're Soundwave's tapes, aren't they?
They are. I mean, even Steeljaw is in Siege. No, Earthrise. They make mention of him.
Briefly. Yeah, mention him. I don't know if you actually see him.
You see the tape getting interrogated or something, but there isn't a toy of the tape yet. But
well, there you go.
But it is strange. It is, with all the stuff going on in the show. I actually don't think that would have been bad or a distraction or really forcing.
I disagree. I think it would have felt a bit out of place. It seems more like something you'd have in one of those Japanese shows, like the Unicron trilogy, because this is really kind of dark, and it's kind of deliberately dark and gritty. And if you have all this kind of like combine business, like it's going to be a little bit kind of like what?
Well, no one does that. No one.
No, but you know what I mean.
It just happens. But I do know what you mean. Yeah. But I think it makes more sense in this whole war stuff to have all these extra battle things happening rather than Skylinks turning up just because toy or the AARGH.
All of those.
Just because
all of
toy.
Those.
Like,
every single Titan turns up because toy, and every single Commander class turns up because toy, except Rodimus. Which
is weird. Like it was
because it wouldn't fit. I don't think Rodimus was even meant to be in the Kingdom line.
I think he
was supposed to be in the Studio 86 line. But let's look at the rest of the predictions. I didn't think Galvatron would show up again. Now I was wrong in that respect because he did turn up properly in reality. So I didn't know that. So that's definitely because I thought they were like, oh, we've done that now. We'll get on with it. We've done this thing. We've kind of laid the seeds of Unicron existing, and there being this other timeline where Megatron becomes Galvatron. But I didn't realise it was going to be quite so important to this show. I wasn't expecting it to really heavily revolve around the Golden Disc being basically a message from Megatron in the future. I thought the Golden Disc would be a message from Megatron in the future. I think it's in my predictions. But I didn't think it was going to be a message from Megatron in the future handed over by Galvatron, and Galvatron being very interested in you knowing what's on it. But yeah, I thought it seems that Galvatron and Nemesis Prime are real and on Earth this time. They were. Well, they weren't on Earth. They were on Cybertron, but they were real. I also noticed that the Beast Wars guys are the same scale as the Autobot and Decepticons. Did that bother you? It didn't bother me.
It did, but not more than the first episode or so. It's a bit jarring.
I don't think it would have worked if they were smaller.
No, it probably wouldn't have, because they would have to be a lot smaller.
Yeah, it would have been really weird. Imagine like that opening scene, because actually the scene where they meet Megatron for the first time is clearly ripping off Jurassic Park.
Yes,
but he comes out, he goes, "Rah!" But A, he's purple, and B, he's barely taller than any of the Decepticons. Whereas in the thing that's amazing about it in Jurassic Park is that he's massive.
He's massive.
Now imagine if he were tiny. Imagine if he was barely higher than Megatron's knee pad. That wouldn't have the effect, would it?
It would make more sense the way he was kissing up to him if he was that small, I suppose.
So I think it was best that they evened the scale out there. I thought the animation, this is from watching the trailer, I thought the animation looked a little bit better. Or it's the colours or the organic backgrounds or whatever that make it look a bit more interesting, which I think is what it was. Having watched, because I rewatched all 3 sections, I think the animation's pretty much the same across the board. It's just that Kingdom's just a bit brighter.
The environment.
Because of the environment. It's very gritty and dark in the first 2 sections. And the last section, because you're on Earth and it's kind of a jungle, it's more, it's just I think it's just the lighting and the environment. I'll have a look at some of the things you said you liked.
Mm-hmm.
No Ironhide clones so far. I mean, you did have multiple Scorponok, you did have multiple Astro Trains.
Did we?
I think so.
No.
Oh no, one was Mirage, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did it well. His camouflaging thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Again, just like in previous parts of this, you had Autobots, mostly Autobots, but you had people who would appear in the first couple of episodes and disappear for the rest of the thing.
Oh,
Mirage was one. Mirage was there for a little bit. He seemed like he was playing a fairly important role, and then, we ain't got time for him. Stick him somewhere on the Ark. He's having a sleep somewhere.
Yeah, it's a big question mark of that. Who's on the Ark? How big is it? It's.
There's 5 people who have to be on the Ark all the time, pressing buttons. That's Ratchet, Wheeljack, Bumblebee. Well, Bumblebee does get to come out sometimes.
Ironhide,
and now Rhinox. They all have to just sit there pressing buttons. That's their job now. They don't get to do anything exciting.
Even though technically now the Ark is sentient and can just walk.
Well, I mean, is it though? I guess so. You said Galvatron is back with Nemesis Prime. You put that down as something you liked. Did you like that?
I did. I thought it was, like I said before, I think it's a nice interpretation or version of the two of them. Like, they've reached a point where they're both like sick of this, and they're like, well, we'll just team up and time travel together, Doctor Who style, and put a stop to Unicron.
Yeah, I mean, I've never liked the concept of Nemesis Prime, ever. So, for me, it was like, okay, Evil Prime, fine. It made some sense, but I don't think he needed to be there, really. I'd had enough by that point of Optimus Prime facing his demons that we don't have to have a physical representation of it. We didn't need you hammering that home any harder than you'd already done it. You'd already been smashing us over the head with Prime's guilt and Prime's existential issues, that we do not have to have a physical evil version of him to fight. It was like the scene from Superman when he has to fight himself.
It actually is. I was going to say, is the only thing that kind of bothered me about it is his design. I thought it was strange that he didn't have the extra weaponry that his spoiler box figure has. Because if he's meant to be reformatted, all he did was just all his new abilities now is that he can fly and use his smokestacks as guns. That's the power up.
Yeah, but you know why that is. It's because they don't have to make a new model. It's the same model as Prime.
Yeah,
and
I know why
they just paint it black. But yeah, I know what you mean. It would be nice, I guess. It would have been nice. So what else did we have on your list down here? The trailer music was cool enough, I guess so. But the music in the show continues to be completely forgettable, as does the title sequence, and you just skip past that. I watched it all on 1.25%, the entire thing.
Speed for it.
I only ever dropped down to regular speed just to check how annoying Prime was, and then I would put it back up to 1.25 so that everyone sounded like they were speaking at a normal speed. And it means that you can get a 20-minute episode over faster.
That's true.
Seeing the Beast Wars characters with the Siege characters was nice to see. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, you did say Beast Wars Megatron's Jurassic Park entrance as well. Most of the backgrounds are a welcome change, which again is something I kind of mentioned, isn't it? What you didn't like, you said Maximals and Predacons being the same size as the Siege guys. So, but you got over that.
Yeah, I got over it.
Yeah. The voice acting. Well, yeah, absolutely. Still bad. There's not much more to say about that. Astro Train isn't a giant anymore.
Yes.
No, he's not. But he was only a giant at the end of Siege for about 5 seconds, and then I think did he appear in Earthrise at all?
He was in the background at some points.
But he was small then, wasn't he?
He was on the Nemesis a lot. He didn't leave and go to the space station.
But he was small. He was regular size.
Yeah, he was regular size.
Yeah. So he's still no Cybertron scenes. Absolutely agree with you on that. I hate the way they just dumped the Cybertron characters, because that was the best bit of Earthrise. The best bit of Earthrise was what was going on in Cybertron.
It's true, because I mean, I think the problem with that is that they just didn't have. They only had 4 Autobots, right?
Yeah.
Like it
But
essentially,
essentially, you've only got 4 Autobots on the Ark at any one time. The rest are hiding.
No. But I mean, it felt like a very pointless crusade by the time they got to the end of it. It's like, what are the 4 of you going to do?
Well, they were liberating people from being harvested. I think that's a pretty good quest. I was well up for that, and I thought Shockwave was brilliant, and that fight at the end with Shockwave was good. And then they just went, "Oh no, they're all dead now. They've all died. Oh well." So there you go. That was your likes anyway. So yeah, I'll just go through my predictions because I wrote a bunch of predictions. So I wrote, it will continue to be all about Prime, which is a shame because he's a crap hero.
That's pretty accurate.
Bang on. Absolutely correct. Second prediction. I don't think we'll see much of Elita 1, Jetfire, Shockwave, and the folk left behind on Cybertron. The Elita 1 in the trailer seems to be some sort of vision or dream. Again, bang on. Didn't see any of them. As we just mentioned, they're all dead now.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3. They won't have done anything to fix the bad dialogue, editing, or terrible stunted voice acting. And they haven't. They've done nothing. If anything, it's got worse. Prime is the biggest problem. I think in Siege, almost everyone was doing it. And in Earthrise, everyone, including Prime, started to kind of do it a little bit less. And then in Kingdom, Prime just amped it back up again. And everyone else is kind of not so bad.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
And it's also a lot of people mispronouncing words and not re-recording the words. Going, oh, that's fine. That take will do. Don't matter about it. Yeah, even if it's a big dramatic line, it's fine. Just leave it in. Number 4, because no one comes up with any new ideas anymore, The Golden Disc will be a map to the Allspark created by Megatron so the future Decepticons or Predacons can come and find it, almost exactly like Beast Wars. Bingo! Pretty much. Mm-hmm. I mean, it served as that anyway. It was essentially a diary, but it was very much used to further the. It was still brought to Earth by the Predacons in the same kind of way it was in Beast Wars, really.
Do you think that if they did the thing in Beast Wars where they, like, if the Beast fan Megatron was more conniving and had ulterior motives for helping Megatron, and in turn for helping him with the Golden Disc, wanted in some way to destroy the Autobots like Megatron and Beast Wars to stop their future from happening?
What? Do I think that would have been good?
As in, really think that... Because, like we spoke before, like, people want David K to be in this and have that, but I don't think the script would have needed to have changed in a way where it would have suited him. Because if it was David K was doing these voices and this script, it wouldn't have served anything. It was...
No, I think David K would have been completely out of place in this.
Yeah.
Because he's a good voice actor, and there's no good voice actors in this. So it's like putting well, actually they do this a lot in a lot of TV series, like putting a good actor in something and surround them by really shitty ones, and then everyone goes, "Oh, I love that character." That's because that's the only one that's going to be good.
Well, I mean more in the sense of, like, because I think of it as putting Peter Cullen in the movies, but the movies are still terrible. But you've got Peter Cullen type of thing. Like, it's...
Yeah, but I mean,
don't think it's enough to have him. You needed to... His character would have needed to have changed.
They went for cheaper labour, and that's what you get.
Well,
but I think if they'd made Beast Wars Megatron, they don't have to have David K doing his voice, although that would obviously be nice. But I think if they'd made him a little bit more true to his character, it could have been interesting. I know that you've kind of had Black Arachnia and Starscream and Dinobot kind of fulfilling that kind of, like, betraying him kind of thing. But what I loved about Beast Wars Megatron was how he was always one step ahead of everybody, and he had this kind of massive overarching plan. This Megatron, he was pathetic. He had this kind of really rubbish kind of, like, he sounded like almost like a teenager, and he'd just be like, "Oh, I love you, Megatron. You're so brilliant, Lord Megatron. I'll do whatever you say." Yeah,
because they have a fight at one point, and Megatron gets hurt, and he's like, "Oh, Megatron, are you
Lord
okay?
Megatron, yeah, are you all right? Oh no, I hope you're not hurt." It was so bad. All right, my fifth prediction was Optimus Primal claims to be from your future.
Oh god, yeah.
I'm assuming they followed the Predacons here, who in turn were led here by the Golden Disc in search of the Allspark. Again, almost exactly like in Beast Wars. Sort of. I mean, I'm pretty it wasn't made clear, but it seems, I think Optimus Primal and his crew of 200 Maximals followed Predacon Megatron to Earth, and Predacon Megatron came there because he knew he could meet Megatron.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple more. Both Black Arachnia and Dinobot will defect in some way. However, given it's only 6 episodes long, we won't get nearly enough character development from either of them to fully explain it. Yes, I think they did a pretty good job, actually. I'm surprised. Yeah. I think both had enough screen time and enough to explain why they were doing what they were doing, and I will say that, yeah, I think that was actually not too bad. I did
like the bit about Dinobot wanting to have gone to Primal before and to ask to be a Maximal or to change sides. Like, he had been contemplating it for a long time, and something with his discussion with AARGH really put him on that track.
Yeah, but I mean, he was already questioning Megatron a bit before that as well.
But I mean, it does mirror Beast Wars in that respect, because he does that for, like, the first episode and changes side. But
well, yeah, sorry, I just something just came into my mind. Something we haven't mentioned is how they've quite heavily lent on the idea that Black Arachnia is into girls now, and I imagine this we're going to see a lot of Black Arachnia / fiction coming out of this.
I didn't read. I have seen a lot of posts and stuff about that. I didn't read much into it when it happened. Like it was,
I think it was like 3 or 4 times she made very innuendo-y comments towards AARGH and 1 or 2 other things as well. But like she definitely said, you know, she said, I think she told AARGH she liked it rough, and then she called her hero and kissed her. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, this is gonna. People are gonna. I mean, it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But like, it's like this is going to be very popular with the kind of people who write that kind of fan fiction.
Do you think it's like some sort of nod towards the fact that AARGH was a guy in Japan? So
I don't know. Maybe it was quite good that when she had her vision quest, she saw a wolf.
She saw a wolf, yeah,
who could or could not be Silverbolt.
Mm.
But no, she was quite sexual, which I think is quite true to the character. So I think it was fine. But I just thought it was funny that they pretty much, you felt like that was kind of deliberately slipped in there.
Because it's weird because there was some sort of connection between Tigatron and AARGH. I mean, not as strong as in Beast Wars, but
they hugged each other when she got back.
Hugged each other, and Tigatron seemed to care about rescuing her where no one else really did.
Well, Tigatron's another one of those characters that kind of said a bit in the first episode, then we didn't really hear from him again.
Yeah.
He'd occasionally appear in a fight, but he wasn't like he didn't say anything else. Same goes for a lot of characters, though. I mean, they were just there as kind of window dressing, really. Mm. You know, Cheetor would occasionally say something, Rat Trap would occasionally say something. But I would say AARGH got more time on screen. Dinobot got more time on screen, obviously. There were quite a few of them were kind of like sidelined a bit. I think that's all my predictions. I said there's something going on between Ultra Magnus and Nemesis Prime. Are they the same thing? It's quite possible none of this is real, and it's another Vision Quest situation where Prime has to face his demons and deal with his epic failures over the course of the past 2 installments. Yep, pretty much. Ultra Magnus was not real. He was kind of the manifestation of the Allspark, and it was Prime doing his kind of like, oh, woe is me, what have I done, kind of stuff.
My optics!
Okay, so what we've been doing rather ill-advisedly, because it's become a bit of a pain in the arse to do this, but we've been rating the shows using characters from the 1986 Transformers the movie. Wheelie being the worst, and then all the way up to your very favourite characters from the show. So what I'm going to ask Dave to do is tell me what character most symbolises how he feels about Transformers War For Cybertron Kingdom. Go!
This one was pretty hard to do because I feel like I like this show in general because even though we've nitpicked it to death, it still was, you know, it was nice to see Transformers in an animated show again and for it to be out there for, you know, everyone to watch.
Sure.
So what I picked was Cyclonus and his armada.
Okay.
Because I feel like it just gets so convoluted and confusing on who's who, what's what, and the shenanigans of that scene in the 86 movie of who was Cyclonus and who was the armada and all of that. I feel like it's kind of that because Cyclonus is a cool character. Doesn't really do much in the 86 movie, but I feel like that type of confusion and mystery, or like we were just talking about, the behind the scenes stuff, I feel like that's just going to be forever attached to the show now. Just like that.
Well, I mean, I have 2 different characters. I have one for Kingdom and one for the whole thing, like all of War For Cybertron. Do you have one for each, or would you say that?
Oh, you say yours. I'll think of one for every show.
Oh, okay. Well, so for just Kingdom, I choose Ghia.
Okay.
Because he's like an out of place oddity.
Yeah.
And he's a lot of fun at the time, but he's not something you remember the movie for. He's just there, and you're like, I don't know what's going on or why this is happening. It doesn't make an awful lot of sense, but it's quite fun. It looks quite good. And, we get to listen to a Weird Al Yankovic song.
You can tell me you don't quote Ghia every given chance of the day.
No, and I hate people who say use the universal greeting. I can't bloody stand it. Like, grow up.
Oh no!
Fuck's sake.
I was going to say more the other one. What's talks on TV?
Yeah, it's Eric Idle. Yeah,
Eric Idle.
But no, I mean, I thought Ghia was a kind of really strange character. He's not really a Transformer, but he's kind of interesting, and he just turns up and he wants to kill them, and then he wants to be their friend, and his motives are confusing, and he seems to be quite out of place, and I feel that Kingdom feels quite out of place after the first two parts of War for Cybertron. Kingdom feels a bit of a mess. I like it enough. I enjoyed bits of it. I liked some bits of it, but it didn't feel like a satisfying ending to the whole thing, and it felt a bit thrown together.
Yeah, it was very just... I mean, a lot of trilogies and shows do have a very, deflated ending, but then sometimes I think that's just because they just don't know how to end it very well. No,
and maybe what we were talking about before, like maybe the interference from Netflix or Hasbro or whatever did affect that. But, I mean, I can tell you what I thought about it overall. So, if I were choosing someone for all of War for Cybertron, I would choose Ultra Magnus. Because back at the time of the 1986 movie, well, slightly before, Ultra Magnus was billed as the next big thing, and that he was going to be the new leader of the Autobots, and he was meant to be this, great big powerful robot, but ultimately he was a total distraction, a total waste of time. He was uninspired and derivative. He was devoid of any humour, and he served no real purpose other than to sell us the same thing with a new coat of paint. And that's what War for Cybertron is. The more I watch it, the more over and over I've watched it, the more, because going back and rewatching it, it's like, there's nothing, War for Cybertron has no identity. It's all borrowed from past victories. It's all stuff borrowed from G1 and other iterations of Transformers. There's nothing new, nothing creative about it. It's all something we've seen before.
I mean, the only thing I can think of that is new, or at least a new idea, is that Bumblebee is not affiliated, and that's all over in like 2 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of surface stuff, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's not, but that's it. I mean, you're right. Everything else is kind of just rehash.
And it's not aimed at anyone who isn't a Transformers fan already.
Yeah.
I can't see any kids watching it. I mean, no, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I think maybe kids could watch it and go, oh, that looks great, I want to buy the toys. But a lot of it does rely on the viewers having existing knowledge of the franchise for it to land. Like the stuff with, I don't think, well, Dinobot's death has no real emotional impact other than the emotional impact that it's borrowing from Beast Wars.
Yes, yeah.
It's not, I mean, just on and of its own thing. It's just like, oh, this guy, he decided that he'd been on the wrong side of the war for ages, and now he's done a nice thing. Done. Even Siege Prime, his reaction is like, oh, cheers, mate. Thanks for the Matrix. See you later.
He really is like that as well.
Yeah. Primal tries to look a bit upset, but We don't even know if Primal's even met Dinobot.
That's true.
Dinobot's just like, oh, many times I thought about coming and joining you. Would you have taken me? And he goes, yeah. Yeah, I guess
it's
so.
It's such a shame because he literally just had probably like one of the best fights
Yes.
in the chapter.
That's a very good point, actually. That was really good. I thought that was really good.
It was a good fight. I mean, it was, Soundwave and everything, and that was pretty cool.
Yes.
But yeah.
No, agreed, actually. We should have mentioned that before. But yeah, no, I thought the fight when he basically took on Soundwave, the tapes, and Megatron, and it's only when Megafan turns up and stops him, but he still manages to take the Matrix.
Yeah, he still does it. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, no, I thought that fight was good. But that's the thing, though. All the good things about War for Cybertron are borrowed from other stuff. It's a bad cover version. It's not to say that it's an awful show, but I just think that there's so little of it that will stand the test of time. I don't think anyone's going to look back at the War for Cybertron TV show and go, that was one of the best Transformers shows ever made. They're going to forget about it because there's nothing in it that's different. Like, animated was different. Beast Wars was different. G1 is obviously the classic and the original. This is just the same stuff warmed up again. And I would never watch Kingdom over Beast Wars or Siege over G1.
Yeah, I know what you mean because over the weekend we've had TFN here.
Oh yeah.
And I watched a little bit of it, but there was one section in particular I saw was a reading of Transformers Animated, like a special, I think 3-part episode of what would have happened in the next season.
Yeah.
And they had this like basic animatics, and they brought back most of the voice actors to do it.
All right.
And it was interesting because I was so hooked to hear this episode play out, even though it was more like a screen reading. It wasn't like a proper episode.
Yeah. And
it was so interesting and so enticing that I sat there and listened to this more enthusiastically than I have been to watch all of Kingdom, Earthrise, or all of them, and simply because of how good animated it is.
Yes. Just
to know what would have happened next.
Because it was a good TV series on its own merits. The whole War for Cybertron just seems like it's been made. It doesn't feel like there's any love has gone into it at all. It doesn't feel like the people making it gave a shit. It just feels very just thrown together out of bits of Transformers lore they read up on TF Wiki, and there doesn't seem to be any passion to it. Like I said, I don't think it's got no heart, no soul. There's no humour to it. I don't see myself ever wanting to watch it again.
I think the problem with Transformers, or Hasbro has at the moment, is that there is no real controlling body of what's going on across the board. Like,
yeah, it's not unified in any way.
It's like a Kevin Feige or something with Marvel or something. Someone who knows the ins and outs of all the different things.
Yeah,
and how it integrates for future properties or stories or whatever. It's very detached, and I think that's what the problem is, because it's the most disappointing thing about it is that the toys are really good, and there's been such an improvement in the toys, the quality, the paint, all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
And there has been almost a decline in the media backing the toys.
Well, I couldn't possibly disagree with you on the toy line. It's a triumph, even though, again, it has sort of the same problems as War for Cybertron in that it's incredibly derivative. There isn't really anything original in there. It's just kind of like reliving past triumphs in kind of like, we'll do G1 again, we'll do Beast Wars again. But that's what a lot of fans have been screaming out for. And that works within the context of a toy line, because you're getting those characters and those figures that you've always wanted updated versions of. That's fine. But when you do it in a TV show, you've got to do something different. Otherwise, you're just redoing the same thing. Yeah,
it's...
And also not doing it as well. as it was done previously. It may be better animated, but
yeah, it's true. Because I mean, yes, G1. I mean, continuity is very strange in it, but at least it
had great voice acting.
It
had great music.
It
captured kids' imagination.
We've talked about this before. Like it's not episodes because it's not episodic. Like
no,
you need to watch the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like G1, at least you could just spotlight episodes and you could have a good time in that.
You can watch them completely out of order and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but this you have to have watched them in order.
Yeah,
or it will make even less sense than it does if you did.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the whole way they're approaching it is just not right.
Agreed.
It's not serving them any benefit in terms of making new fans or long-lived fans. Because I've seen other kid shows on Netflix,
mm-hmm.
and they're not like this. They are so comedy-orientated, or
yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a Fast and the Furious kid show.
I mean, yeah, is it really?
It's like your spy races or something. Like it's so weird that the Fast and the Furious franchise, predominantly targeted at adults, has a kids show that must be doing better than Transformers because that's where it's like 6 seasons in or something.
Well, I mean, maybe we'll get this with BotBots.
Oh, maybe. That's...
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the problems these days with a lot of media franchises is everything's got to top the last thing. It's got to be a more epic story every time. To the point at which now everything's an epic story every bloody time. It would be nice just to have some smaller stories here and there, you know? I don't need there to be some kind of universe-threatening event all the time. We can have an episode where Powerglide falls in love with a girl. Why not? Like, why do we have to have all this kind of high-stakes stuff all the time? I like the silly stuff. I like the one-and-done episodes in between the bigger ones. You know, you can do that. Lots of shows have done that.
Animated did it a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, we've got a fun episode. Okay, well, great. We'll get back to the big story later. But they don't. This doesn't do that at all. Each part is designed to slowly ramp up to a big crescendo, and that's why I had some problems. I think the pacing of War for Cybertron. I think the pacing of Kingdom was a little bit better than the pacing of Siege and Earthrise, because both Siege and Earthrise suffered from kind of a very slow start that kind of ramped up and then everything happened in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Kingdom's didn't do that quite so much. There were important events in episode 2 or 3 that it was a little bit better paced, so I'll give it that.
Overcasting review to give it to a character, I don't know. Maybe Astro Chain.
Okay. Because
I feel that Astro Train,
right,
in the 86 movie, is a strange oddity in terms of his mass shifting.
Right.
To be able to fit the entire Decepticon army and Devastator inside him. But also talk about weight in space, determining of how fast or slow he gets, and the travel, and it's another thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but leads to probably one of the more memorable parts of that whole Autobot battle scene, is that when they finally fly off and they have the big scene with Starscream chucking Megatron out. I feel that it encapsulates a lot of that type of space journey, back and forth between Cybertron, Starscream's treachery, all happens within that little scene of Astro Train going back and forth.
That's true. So you see it as a vehicle for a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah.
but a slightly kind of nonsensical vehicle
yes.
that you have some issues with. But despite this nonsensical vehicle not making an awful lot of sense, the things happening around it were quite fun.
Yes, that's exactly it. And just like how he is in the show, and his own scale is brought into question in there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, do you think that was maybe that was a kind of nod to the fact that he is a bit confusing scale-wise, having him massive in the one show and then having him tiny later?
maybe it was just a vision from the Allspark. Maybe
I mean, you'd like to hope. I don't know if I can credit the guys making the show with that much thought, but you'd like to think so.
My optics!
One of the things that I was looking forward to from this show and eventually this Rise of the Beast movie is that maybe it will get people more on board for Beast Transformers, or them working together with Transformers who don't turn into beasts.
Yeah, I do. I think you're probably right there. I do think that it might. Well, this TV show is not how it's going to happen. It's going to be the movie and it's going to be a combination of the movie and the toy line. If people are picking up War for Cybertron Kingdom Beast Wars figures, going, actually, I quite like these, and then that movie comes out and people like it, I don't think the TV show, it could have some influence, but I don't think it's. But I agree. I do think that hopefully these things will sell the idea, so maybe we'll get more Beast Wars things in the future. However, on the opposite side of the coin, Dave, I don't want it to happen because I love Beast Wars being its own thing on its own, completely separate from everything else. I do not need it to be ruined by a TV series or by a movie. I know the things that I love are still there, and I know that they're not ruined, but when I see Beast Wars Megatron being depicted so badly, and God knows what they're going to do with that live action movie, it just makes me think, I wish they'd not done it. I'm happy for Beast Wars to be its own thing. I'm glad they haven't touched it for so long, because it was good. It was perfect as it was.
I'm completely the opposite. I'm just looking for it from the toy perspective.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You just want more product.
I want them to bring back these characters and go choo-chooing down the nostalgia train to somewhere other than G1. Like, let's go back to some other people's nostalgia.
Yeah.
Can I get my Armada Prime, please?
Yeah.
Can we?
Well, yeah. I mean, and that is probably going to happen. So. Anyway, I think we've kind of gone off topic now, so I think we can probably... Shall we wind it up?
Yeah.
My optics!
Right, I think we've rambled on long enough. It's finally over. War for Cybertron is no more. Although it looks like we may well see future stuff in future toy lines that kind of leads on from this. And, there was a little kind of a possible tease of a sequel with Unicron there. Anyway... I'm sure we'll come back to talking about War for Cybertron at some point in the future. In the meantime, why don't you tell us what you thought of it? Do you agree with Dave or myself, or both of us? What were your highs? What were your lows? What do you think the future will be after the trilogy? Let us know on social media. You can contact us on Facebook, where there is an AARGH My Optics page. I am on there as Orion Ghia, and on Twitter and Instagram I am at Ghia Orion and Orion_Ghia respectively. Virtual Dave, you are young and all over social media. Where can they find you?
At Instagram, Virtual Dave 26.
Perfect. If you enjoyed this as much as Dave and myself, why not do all those things you're supposed to do? Like, subscribe, share, review, whatever. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and please join us next time on AARGH My Optics!